Rogue Record.
What's up, everybody? You're listening to Hustle Makes It Happen, a podcast about the grit, the determination, and the mindset that it takes to become a winner. Success is not an accident. It lives outside your comfort zone, in the trenches, where excuses are met by brick walls. So strap in, tighten up, and let's get ready to hustle. What's up, hustlers? Welcome back to another episode of Hustle Makes It Happen, the podcast. As you guys know, the only way we grow this show is with your help. You've done an awesome job up to this point. We certainly appreciate it. If you're a new viewer to the show, we want you to come back and get some more value out of the things that we're telling you, and we want you to bring a friend so we can continue to grow this thing with word of mouth. If you're one of our longer-term viewers, it would really be helpful to us if you go on YouTube and make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, and then go on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, subscribe to the show there, and please take like 2 seconds. It's not even a lot to ask. I don't think it's not a big ask. If you get value out of the show, go leave us a review on iTunes. Just a couple of words, a couple of stars. Tell us what you love about the show. That really helps us out a bunch. With all that out of the way, today I think we got a good one. This is a good, what I consider a friend of mine at this point. Our guest today I deployed with in 2021, had never met him prior to our deployment in 21, and through that process of being gone overseas and spending time with somebody, especially in this leader subordinate capacity, you get to know a lot about them and a lot about their leadership philosophy and a lot about the way they utilize their personal traits to motivate other people. And I have to say, the gentleman you see sitting over here to my right, or the guy we're going to introduce in just a second if you're not watching on video, is a guy that is very in tune with his personal leadership philosophy. From my point of view, very in tune with his personal leadership philosophy, very in tune with motivating other people to develop themselves personally and professionally. And that's why I wanted to get him on to have the conversations that we're going to have today. So with that out of the way, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir, Lieutenant Colonel Joshua Culp.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
That was impressive. You doing all that without a script.
Yeah, I'm just rolling with it, man. It was not, so we had General Haygood in here a couple of months ago. She was the second episode, and I was sitting here like, this is General Haygood. I know her, like she's cool. And it was terrible, right? But with some practice, I think we've gotten a little bit better. Yeah. But we usually kick off just by having our guests like kind of introduce themselves, tell a little bit about yourself, what you do, what your job is, what your side hustles are, if you have any of those, a little bit about your education and background, family. But it's yours, next couple of minutes.
All right. So my name is Joshua Culp, born in Monroe, Louisiana. Currently live in Covington, Louisiana. Married with a wife named Leslie, who teaches first grade at Kehoe, France. 2 little boys named Jack and Walt, so they're 6 and 2. They keep us busy. Been in the military for 25 years, 6 years in the Louisiana National Guard before I became an officer, and became an officer commissioned in December 2003, and then did 5 years on active duty, now back in the National Guard. So 25 years total in the military, 5 active duty, and the rest Louisiana National Guard.
What do you think? So that's a long time to spend. You're 42 years old and you spent 25 years in the military, so you joined pretty early. What age were you when you joined?
17. I was, I think you have to be 17, and then on November 17th, 6 days after my birthday, my mom drove me to MEPS and said, this is where you go.
So it's been life for you for your entire adulthood, for sure.
Yeah, and I did not think I would be here on November 17th, 1997, thinking I would still be in the military.
Right. You know, I say this a lot, and this is definitely not shit talking on the military. I don't want it to, I want to preface with that, right? Yeah. Because I'm still in the organization. I love it. Love everything I do every day. But a lot of people have this like utopian view of what the military is like, right? Looking from the outside, people that aren't in the military, they see the structure and they see the discipline and they see the leadership, and like military leaders in the civilian side are always like highly sought after individuals. But what people don't understand is the amount of training that military leaders get compared to civilian leaders in leadership. Because your job, honestly, as a leader in the military is to train people to potentially go die for you. You understand? I mean, no, yeah. I know it sounds like a lot it sounds like an over-glorification of it, but at the base level, your job is to train people to go to war. And it takes a whole lot of influence and authority and trust building and all these things that I hope we're going to talk about in this podcast to get to the point where you can convince a 17 or 18-year-old young man to leave their family, leave everything they're comfortable with, and go potentially lay their life on the line for the cause, for their country. So I want to talk about some of that today.
You joined, so me and you are very close in age. We might have been at MEPS not too far away from each other, to be honest. So you joined at a pretty young age, which I was shortly thereafter you, but what was the thought process with that? So, I mean, I know mine, but I like to ask, especially with a 25-year career now behind you. You're 17, you're walking in, you're going to figure out what you're doing. You said you were in the Guard first, right? So were you thinking about that as like going to serve my country? Was that a thought? Because mine in high school was never to even think about joining the military. I actually did community college for like half semester and was like, this isn't for me either. But where was your thought process in the beginning stages of saying, like, I'm about to go put my John Hancock on the autograph section and join the military?
Well, to be honest, that was my only option to get college paid for. Okay. So TOPS had just come out, and I didn't take the classes you needed to get TOPS. And so Mom said, student loans, bunch of debt, or the military. And we had a friend in the family that was in the National Guard. I didn't know too much about it, called a recruiter, and it wasn't long after that I was swearing into MEPS and started going to drills. And this was 4 years before 9/11. And so you had no idea really about war and all these things that were going to take place pretty soon that was going to affect the world forever. So initially it was all about just getting college paid for.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was very similar to mine.
So I joined, I did delayed entry program. I joined August 11th of 2001.
Oh, wow.
So I joined literally a month and then had a delayed entry. But as I'm in my delayed entry, 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
Look, that's impactful too. Like I can't imagine. I didn't join until 2009, which I guess is kind of the same, right? Because I watched 9/11 happen I was like 11. So you guys are much older than I am.
You were like a wee baby.
Yeah, I was a little baby.
Yeah, but you lived it for 8 years.
That's right. Yeah. So I knew what was going on. I was old enough to understand that we were at war whenever I joined. Yeah. But what was weird was I didn't know anybody at that time in my life. So whenever I joined in 2009, I didn't know anybody that had been deployed. But right after I joined, a year after I joined, one of my brothers joined, and about 6 months after that, another one of my brothers joined. I was in ROTC, so I was non-deployable as a cadet, but both of my brothers deployed to Afghanistan within like a year or two of joining the military.
Wow.
So I'd been in for 3 years, all of which was in the ROTC program. I was at SMP cadet at LSU. But my two brothers both deployed before I did, and I didn't deploy until like the deployment with you guys was my first deployment. I'd been in for 13 years almost before I got a deployment. Yeah. But that's a weird dynamic, and I love hearing the stories about you guys that joined either right before or right around the time of 9/11, because that ain't what you signed up for. Like I knew what I was getting into to an extent, but that's not what you guys thought you were getting into.
I changed my job title because of that.
Right.
I was going to be a search and rescue swimmer for the Navy, and 9/11 happened, and the ranks and jobs opened up differently. So that's what I changed because of that.
Yeah. So throughout the last 25 years in the military, what do you think are some of like the key lessons that you've learned as it relates to leadership and development of other people? That's really what I want to dig into that, because I admire your ability to like come up with a leadership development plan for your subordinates. And I think that's a really, really valuable resource for the people that listen to this podcast. So I kind of want to focus on that. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned throughout your career in the military that have got you to the point where you can so proficiently develop leaders and develop yourself?
Well, a lot of failure, for one. When you're a brand new lieutenant, you're right out of college, ROTC or whatever the other commissioning programs they are, a lot of it is just about yourself. You got to make the grades, you got to get in shape, you got to shoot, you got to do all these individual things. and then you go to training, and then it's all about making the grade and learning it for yourself. And then once you get to a platoon, when you're an active duty Army, you show up, and there's really 52 people looking at you. And you really, at least from my perspective, and where I was at 24, I was not really a leader. I had the position as a lieutenant, was in charge of everybody, but there were, in 2004, when I got to my platoon, there had already been people who deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq. There were people who were in from Desert Storm. So there was all of this experience, and I had just got there. So over time, you kind of learn that leadership is not about you at all, and you have to find a way to make whatever your organization is trying to do be about the people in it. If you're constantly pushing some goal, some business goal, or the goals of the organization, and you don't find a way to make it about the people, I think your business can be successful, maybe in the short term, your organization, but over long term, it's going to lose some steam because it's not about the people.
When did you realize that? Because I love what you're talking about right now. You're talking about situational leadership and then actually having the good traits and building to be an actual leader, not a positional leader. Because I love that because I see that currently in where I'm at today right now. I had a very in-depth discussion last night about this exact conversation. Because I love you're talking about it being about the actual people and the message and what you're trying to do and building the organizational goals, but then the people's goals within that to be together, right? I mean,
yeah.
And that's showing unity between the organization and the people that are help running the organization. When did that become more clear? Because you said, I get there, I'm young, like I'm a positional leader because I was working on me, but now I'm over all these other people. When did it become more clear for you? Did you have like maybe a failure that was like, oh shit, that one stung a little bit mentally?
Yeah, I can't place it to one specific instance, but the general time frame for me was about 2014, so 10 years after I became an officer. I got promoted to major. My new assignment was I was the battalion operations officer. So when you become what is called a field grade officer, where you're civilian term like an executive, your mindset has to shift. You can't be the guy with all the answers. Everything can't run through you, and you have to make a shift. So at that position, some of the traits I had as a lieutenant and captain, some of that followed with me, and you learn pretty quickly that you have to, whatever your section's doing, whether it's doing battalion operations for a lot of engineer units overseas, that you still have to make it about the people. You have to take a step back at times and allow other people to step forward and put themselves out there. So it's about 2014, 10 years after I became an officer.
What's interesting about that is the time frame of yours, that like 10-year mark, I think is whenever I started having a lot more of these realizations in my career as well, because it was at the end of my first company command. I had a very challenging first command. It was one of those companies. I'm not telling this for you. I'm telling it for everybody that doesn't know because you know. But it's one of those companies that like people tend to shy away from or not want to go take command of because it's just a challenging unit. It's a very large unit. They've got a very high profile mission, and not the demographics, but the like composition of the company can conflict. Right, you have people from vastly different backgrounds that are all in the same company, and that causes a lot of personality conflict sometimes. So the company was just a challenging company, and it was one that commanders had come in and taken command of, and like their careers ended at that command, right? Because they made some bad decisions. My personality has always been like, I'm going to go in and we're going to fix this, whatever this problem is. We're going to go fix these problems. What I learned from that command though was the style and how you do that. So as a young lieutenant or as a regular soldier, a very young soldier, you just have to worry about you. And then when you get in those positional roles where you're the positional leader, like at the platoon at the platoon level, you can get so far just by saying, look, this is what we're going to do, this is the plan, and we're going to do that because I said to do it, right? Whenever you take it, and that might work on a very micro level because it's easier to build trust at a micro level, but whenever you step that up to 250 people, like, you're not building individual relationships with 250 people. I was used to relying on my ability to build relationships with small groups of people to get them to do what I wanted them to do because they trusted me, right? That's easy at a micro level. At a macro level, it's not easy. So, because you can't physically have relationships with 250 people, right? You, as a battalion commander, aren't going to have a personal relationship with 5,000 soldiers, or however, I don't know how many you got. It's a bunch.
They want you to.
Yeah, they want you to. But, in all honesty, like, you just can't, You can't have a personal relationship with every soldier underneath you. And whenever I was in command, I was using the same techniques. Like, hey, we're going to go do this. This is what we're going to do. Like, this is the plan. We're just going to go execute the plan. And I wasn't really focused on allowing my subordinate leaders, because I had 4 of them at that point. I had 4 lieutenants under me to really, I wasn't leveraging them to build the relationships with their platoon and then trusting them to make the right decisions. I was just handling all the decisions myself, or trying to. And, man, I consider that command to be maybe not necessarily a failure, but a whole lot less successful than it could have been. I was fortunate enough to get a redo and have a second command, and I took the lessons that I learned from the first one and applied them to the second one, and it was so much easier. Not only were the outcomes better, but it was easier for me. Yeah. So I really appreciate the fact that you talked about allowing other people to build their teams up, and that's that whole concept of decentralized command.
And about that time, I was turned on to a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I don't think if I had been earlier in my career, I would have never read the book. Like, who needs this book? But since I was open to shifting my style and learning from others, I took the advice. Some people on our team, you know some of them, Brett Carden, Keith Bonnet, they were talking about the book, read it, got a lot out of it, and then read some other books. And then ever since then, really in 2014, I've just been trying to read and learn as much as I can about a lot about leadership and psychology and so forth.
What do you think, I know the military has obviously played a high role in your life and what you've done. Take the military out of it, and maybe it's something that you learned from it, but not it directly. What's one of the traits that you feel has helped you grow as a person, or that you've learned over these years, or that's helped fuel you become in the gear and the lane that you're going into right now? About, you talking about leadership and psychology, and like what is one of those traits that, was it instilled in you younger, or is it something that you grew over the years?
Well, I think there's a saying, hey, everything happens for a reason. So I kind of think you have to embrace that and look at it as things, not this happened to me, this happened for me. So this is good, bad, whatever. You just have to look at what's going on and learn from it. And because if you get upset, frantic, and all in your feelings about something, you can't make a good decision. You can't learn what's going on. You're going to miss the picture and eventually not be successful in, navigating the trouble that just happened, but you won't be able to pass along that lesson to somebody else. So understanding that things are going to happen, just try to learn from them and move out. That's really all you can do in life.
I like what you just said. I want to cue off on that. You said things don't happen to you, they happen for you. I think that's a shift in mindset from like having kind of this helpless mentality to seeing things as two things. If they happen to you, then they're obstacles. If they happen for you, then they're opportunities. And if people can just make that shift and not just look at everything as either a blessing or a curse, I guess, if you look at them as obstacles and opportunities, then you can come up with plans on how to capitalize on both of them. You can come up with a plan on how to capitalize when opportunities present themselves, because you recognize it as an opportunity, not just something good that's happened to you. You can recognize it as an opportunity. And then on the flip side, you can recognize when something bad happens that you're not cursed or you're not failing, but it's an opportunity for you to either overcome or grow, right? Because look, you're not going to overcome. We talk all the time on this show about opportunities and overcoming opportunities, but people don't overcome obstacles. People don't overcome every obstacle that they face, right? But the ones that are successful grow from those obstacles. Even if they get beat by it, they learn from it and they grow from it. I was listening to one of our older episodes a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember which one it was, but we talked about somebody that I think you had mentioned somebody that like got into politics and got like hammered in the election, but they learned from that. Like, well, I'm growing beyond this aspiration to get into politics. I'm going to go do something else. I don't think you have to overcome every obstacle that gets in front of you. You just have to be able to identify why you didn't overcome it and grow from that.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all, if you're in the market for a real estate attorney that can handle all your title work needs, all your closing needs, all your succession needs, whatever your needs are in the real estate industry, look no further than our friends Shay Landry and the group at Milestone Title. Y'all, we use these guys for our personal business, and they have never let us down. They've been on top of the game every time we've used them. So whatever it is that you're looking for in the real estate industry, as far as a closing attorney or title work is concerned, check out our friends over at Milestone Title. Milestone Title, a proud sponsor of Hustle Makes It Happen, the podcast.
When you have, I like this obstacle and opportunity thing that we're kind of hammering on right now. You've been in the military for 25 years. The shift in mindset of your subordinates has changed dramatically over these years. I mean, I was in earlier, but I also see when I was in the military, I saw a lot of things. I feel like I had some great leaders above me, and I see it at the level now in a corporate standpoint. In the military, there was not a lot of gray area. It was really just, that's what it is. We're going to call it exactly what we see it in front of it. And maybe that changes up in the higher officer rankings. I don't know. But in my level, it was just what it was. That's what they said it was. And I was like, yeah, it's a blue cup. There's no like, hey, it could be this or we can put it that. But I see that changing in the corporate world a lot. And I question that today. And I feel like that is embedded in me from the military days, that we called it what it was, we identified it, fixed it, moved on, went over it, went through it, whatever it was. Do you feel that you have people challenging things more today than they have? Like, people were less likely back in the day to like challenge authority, and like I feel like we're kind of in that realm now as a society. People like challenge things more. Do you see that?
Well, not only that, but a generational mindset change that you have probably seen and had to deal with in your career, I would imagine.
Well, I think that we probably have access to more information about people challenging things, things that you see on TV or social media, internet. Certain types of those things are probably pushed more than others. But like I said, when I was a new lieutenant and young captain in the Army, different officer than I am now.
Right.
Me and some of my friends that are still close, we text every day, talk about this. Our level of maturity, we wish we would have had a little bit more maturity when we were then, because there were things that we questioned, and there were things that we did as young officers that if I have observed that today, it would be hard to deal with.
You'd rip their ass.
He would put you in his office and have a very thorough and clear conversation about you, about what his expectations are.
So
I'm telling you that from experience.
I think that all generations have questioned things.
Yeah.
It's just that you got to, as you grow up, you got to push the generational gap aside. And if somebody's asking you why, you got to be upfront and be honest and tell them the why. And sometimes the why is not what people want to hear. But if you beat around the bush and you tell some canned answer or give information that you don't know about, it's just going to create more confusion.
That's one of the pillars of leadership, at least in my book. Like, one of the pillars of leadership is honesty. Two pillars. I'm going to talk about two of them: honesty and accountability. And that goes like kind of hand in hand with what you're saying. Like, honesty is a two-way street, right? The leader needs to be very honest with his subordinates about what his expectations are, what their performance looks like. He has to be honest about what the organizational goals are. He has to be honest about the situation. Like if there's a situation that's caused something to come up, like at least in my opinion, the best policy around that is just to be honest. Like, look, these are all the facts. This is everything that I know it. If you have additional facts, please enlighten me on them. But these are the facts, and this is why we're making the decision that we're making. And then the accountability piece comes right behind that. Like leaders, and I teach at OCS now, so I just had this conversation with a candidate yesterday, and this is probably one of the most challenging things for leaders to grow into. And I think once you make the flip where you're okay with holding people accountable, you really start to elevate your leadership potential. We had a candidate this weekend that has a ton of leadership potential. I mean, I see it. This candidate got a very good evaluation from me this weekend. And I told her in the outbrief that you are squared away, but you're okay with accepting other people not being squared away. Once you get to the point where you're okay with holding other people accountable for their actions, you're going to start to see more confidence out of yourself, more high performance out of your team. Jocko talks about it a lot too, about that no bad teams, only bad leaders mentality. It's my favorite. I always do like a quote board everywhere where I'm a person that is in charge of something. I always write my little quotes up there, and that's always the first one. There's no such thing as bad teams, only bad leaders. But people like to spin that and say, well, some people just can't be fixed. Some people just do their own thing, and they're not a good fit for the organization, or they're not capable, or they're not in line with the organizational goals or whatever. And my rebuttal to that is always, then they shouldn't be on your team. Like this, if they're not a good fit for the organization, if they're not willing to help work towards the organizational objectives, then it's your job as a leader to get rid of that person.
Yeah, and in the military, you don't get to really pick your team.
That's right.
And you can assign people to different positions, and you can explain the job goals and the responsibilities and everything somebody's supposed to achieve. But you got to do your part in holding people accountable, more than just saying, hey, that was wrong. You have to be able to explain from your experience why it was wrong, maybe the right way to do things. And then when you hold people accountable, you also hold them accountable for the positive.
That's right.
And you try to have the same standard across the board. But, if somebody's not performing, you have to be up front with them, talk to them, and, say, we're going to give you a chance to do something else and let somebody else do your position. A lot of times you see leaders just willing to accept other people not performing. And sometimes in the military, it happens a lot. You get put in a position, you may not even be interested in that position. So we're not even putting people in the right position where they can be successful, because you do have to have some interest in it to want to do well at it.
Right. What are some of the things that you do personally every day to sharpen the axe?
So on my commute to work, I like to listen to podcasts or just have some silence. A few guys I listen to, Ed Milet, he's really good. I like Brad Lee, he's pretty entertaining. And then there's all kind of things, but just taking in information from experts out there, different points of views, and really just kind of think to yourself. I like to read, try to read a lot, and then going to the gym. So if you can get to the gym, have a good relaxing workout, or not really a relaxed workout, but let some of that anxiety go, not think about the day. If I can do that first thing in the morning, I'm going to have a good day.
Fitness is a big part of your life. Obviously, when it comes, it's a big stress reliever for you. Yeah.
The gym opens at 4:45. I wish it opened up a little earlier, because you kind of run out of time trying to get ready for work in the morning. But it just, you're there with other like-minded people. A lot of times it's professionals, and you can have some good conversations with people. I have found that from early in life, when you go to the gym, you're trying to look good in your clothes or look good without clothes or something.
Right.
Now it's more of a stress relief and maybe more health benefits, so you feel better versus the looking good part.
You seem like you're always kind of moving the needle, whether it's reading a book or educating yourself. I love that there's always a common thread with the people that sit at this table. You know, silence. We talk about I drive in silence.
Yeah,
I
drive in silence all the time.
I drive in silence all the time. Either I'm on the phone listening to a podcast, or I'm riding in silence. And hearing those things in that chair, that it's repetitive for people that are moving the needle. And I love hearing that he's, you know, the gym. We talk about fitness, and not everybody's into fitness, but he's talking about what I need to relieve my stress and think about things. And are you, beyond work, sitting and having those vulnerable conversations in life with other like-minded individuals? I like to ask that now because I'm starting to try to do it more. So I ask people, you know, are you sitting at a table where, like, you're with like-minded individuals and you're talking about vulnerabilities in life, and how are you moving the needle, and what are you doing to get to your next goal? Do you have those conversations with friends, family, coworker, like off the beaten path? They're not work related.
Not work related. I have a few guys that I'll talk to because I think you can learn from others. You know, married men with children, a lot of us are going through the same circumstances, and you know, you want to learn from others, see how other people are navigating life. I try to do a lot of sharing vulnerabilities at work, because I think if you share a vulnerability in the right message, you can allow other people to want to take risk, want to fail at something, want to take on more responsibility, and you present a different image to people.
I love hearing what you just said with that, man. I got goosebumps thinking about that, man, because I feel like some of the people that have made an impact in my life have showed me their vulnerability in certain senses, which it gives that human connection, especially when you're in a subordinate role, like when you're underneath them and they show you that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I think if you're teaching somebody something, or you're about to plan a mission or a business venture, there's a difference between telling people how they should do it versus I can give people a lot of examples of how I failed at something and say, hey, you can do it that way. I tried it this way. It didn't work. And you can just share that and allow people to, you know, take your information or do their own thing.
Yeah, use it. Yeah. Use it the way that they want to use it.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really glad you brought up that second one. You can either take it or you can try to do it your own way. And that either one of those is okay, right? Yeah. I've been chastised before in my personal life for asking people about things I was thinking about doing, or for asking people what they thought about something. And I'll hear your feedback. Like, I'm listening, right? And I'm taking mental notes. But if I decide to go with that course of action anyway, even though you told me it was a bad idea, that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it might not be the right course of action from your perspective, but maybe I've thought about some stuff you didn't think about the first time, or maybe you have cued me off now to some risks that I should be aware of, and I've taken that in and took steps to mitigate those risks, and I'm going to try it anay. Like, I'm going to accept some of that risk.
The reason why I asked about are you having those conversations, because I've been diving down some podcasts, and it was really talking about the actual relationships that you have in your life. Are they just surface level? You know, are they just on the surface? You talk about how's your day, and are you going to live?
I'm joking. All right, I'm good.
He's alive.
Are you okay?
I'm good.
All right. Back to action. Okay. So I've been listening to a couple of podcasts that they were talking about just surface level relationships. They're there. They can be long, but there's nothing's in depth. Where you're not talking about things. Like, me and Jim had a conversation the other day. He called me, and we actually started on one thing, and then we just started diving down in this 15-minute conversation about all these other things. And we got off the phone. It was refreshing because we were just giving points of views and why we thought that way, and these were the things of why. And you get off the phone, you're like, man, that was a really good, genuine, in-depth conversation about life and mentality. And I feel if you don't have those things, because it challenges you mentally when you have some of those things too, because you're like, I didn't think about it that way. And you can start to open that box, that Pandora's box, like you can view things a little differently too.
And that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, the main thing I got out of that was other people have point of views too. And it's important to put yourself in somebody else's shoes in every situation and try to do that. I'm not the best at it in every situation.
Right.
But you have to be able to do that.
You know, when you have a friend or a coworker or somebody you've grown close to that you can call, especially I feel as men, like we always have this like pride flag that we like to fly sometimes. And it's like we're not supposed to be talking about those things. But like when a friend can say, look, man, my marriage is on the rocks. Like, things are just not the way we envisioned. And like, we need to do some self-searching and therapy and this and that. But like to be able to take that conversation and say, look, man, if you need help, or here's some of the things that me and my wife did when we hit a little rough patch. And then like on the back end of that, when they come to you and they're like, man, things could not have been, they're great. And we took these steps and here's the things that we did. And it may be not any of the things I did. It may be something different. But to see them come back on the other end of that, but to be able to have that conversation as a man, I think is valuable now today.
I think it goes a step further than that too. And you actually wrote this in your questionnaire. I just looked down and I saw this line and I was like, this is exactly what we're talking about right now. But we talked a while ago about holding other people accountable. But whenever you have that group of people that you can kind of sit at a table with and you're all kind of chugging along towards the same goal, whether that's like you're talking to other people that are trying to start businesses, you're talking to other people that are into fitness and doing stuff at the gym or whatever, having others hold you accountable is a big like piece of personal development that I think a lot of people take for granted. Like you wrote, we asked you how you currently move the needle towards your next goal. You talked about vision boards, which I want you to talk about in a second because I really, really like that. And then asking to be held accountable, like asking other people to hold you accountable for what you said you were going to do. And that comes from having that group of people that are all kind of working towards the same goal that you're working to. And I think we try to preach that on this show, to go find people that are working towards something similar to what you're working towards and try to just pick each other's brains and learn from each other, but also have an accountability partner in whatever you're doing.
Nick Torito at Area Home Lending, Louisiana's top choice for mortgages. If you're looking to buy, build, or refinance, they have you covered. Don't get fooled by one of those online or out-of-state banks. Nick and Area Home Lending are Louisiana-based and lend in all of Louisiana. From Lake Charles to Lafayette or all of Baton Rouge to New Orleans. If it's in this state, Nick and his team are local experts and ready to help. Your home is one of the biggest decisions and investments you will make in your life. With trust, commitment, and care, Nick will walk you through the process, step by step, making the hardest decision easy and ensuring the process is as simple and painless as possible. And with Nick, you'll find out that you're not only just another transaction or number on the list. He's invested in you and you become family with his goal to create a relationship that will always be there. Area Home Lending has access to the best loan programs too, and with the lowest rate and fees, all while delivering exceptional customer service. Please give him a call today at 225-663-2500 or visit him on the web at www.areahomelending.com. I guarantee you, he will take great care of you. Nick Torito and Area Home Lending, a proud sponsor of Hustle Makes It Happen, the podcast.
Yeah. I mean, we're all in this together. So, people should want to see others succeed. And you should also want to help others succeed. And I haven't always openly shared goals with people. In the military, people assume you want to get promoted and this, that, and the other. But as far as other things outside of that, I haven't always shared that. You can be, whether that's, you may not think you're worthy of the goal you want to attain, or you want to be ridiculed, or whatever it is. It's something new that I've kind of started doing once I started creating vision boards. And I find that it prompts others to want to share their goals and create conversation, and you can learn from others and watch people meet a goal that they wanted to attain, whether it was something lifelong or just something they thought of and they enjoy talking about it.
Yeah, so tell Chase about your vision board. I saw it on deployment. I thought it was awesome.
My next question was,
what is a vision board?
No, I was going to say, what? I was about to ask, what does Joshua Culp's vision board today, what does it look like right now?
All right, so I've only been doing vision boards for 2 years, so it's not like it's this lifelong thing. I'll give credit to my friend Jeremy Breen for turning me on to those. So the top left corner of my vision board is a cross. So first thing I want to have important with my life is my faith. My next picture is Christmas photo we took a couple days after we got home last year, me, my wife, and my 2 boys. Then I have some other things. I don't know what order they're in, but goals I want to attain in life. I have a picture of a colonel rank. So that would be full-bar colonel rank. That would be my next promotion. So I want to stay in the military and earn a promotion to the next rank. There's some financial things on there. I have a picture of an airplane. I want to get my pilot's license. There's some financial numbers on there, fitness goals. So it's a one-page snapshot of everything I'm working to achieve that year. And I have them hanging in my office, have one in my truck. I have them put in different places so I can always reference what I'm trying to attain.
I feel like that helps keep you on track whenever you are having just a rough day and you just look at your vision board and it just keeps you.
That's right. In my office, it's the first thing I could look at. In my truck, it's in the door panel. Keep one in my Bible. Always reference.
I'm ashamed to say that I don't.
So I say that we challenge the three because I know I thought if any one of us to have one, it would be Justin.
Yeah,
he was prompted numerous times.
I was.
This year to
so Justin has actually been he's been taking a lot of the things that he's been learning on the show from individuals like. This dude's rolling around doing jujitsu now, and he's like diving back in further to his, health and wellness and trying things that he knows he's not good at.
I'm combating imposter syndrome intentionally.
Yeah, like he's doing things that he knows that challenged him before, and it's like I'm not really good at this. I'm gonna keep, moving towards that. So I say that we challenge ourselves and we all make a vision board.
Let's do it.
All right, we'll talk about it too,
and then we will off air talk about why it's on there and what's on ours so that we can be a little vulnerable too.
And we'll share them.
Yeah, so like in my office, people walk in and can see it. What is that? Oh, well, that is this, and this, and this.
Well, that's how I was introduced to it. I was just about to say that. I walked in your office on deployment and you had, it was just like a big piece of poster board with like paper pictures glued to it. And I was like, what is that? Yeah. And he explained it and I was like, damn, that's genius. I really like that. And then I was like, all right, cool. And then went on about my business and clearly have not created a vision board yet.
2 years later. Accountability time.
And so last year, I put one in my boys' room. It was on our goals to plan a trip to Disney World. And so he got to share in the experience of the vision board too. And so trying to instill goal setting at a very early age to him, working towards something. My 2-year-old, he's not going to comprehend that yet. But
yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I'm a firm believer of instilling these things in our kids early. I do it with mine on a daily, weekly. When I sit down with my daughter and my son, I actually just started with my son this year. We talk about something that we took from today that you felt was a really positive thing, something you felt that you could have done better, and somewhere that you feel like you had a missed opportunity. We talk about it every night before we go to bed.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really admire the fact you do that with your kids too. Like I need to write that down somewhere. That whenever mine's 2, right?
Yeah.
But whenever because you talked about that with Brim before, like you have those deliberate conversations with your 12-year-old every day about like what did you learn, where did you fail. Like a lot of people, I don't feel like get those conversations at that age.
I feel like something that I did, and I don't know where I read it because it wasn't on a podcast, but for probably about 2 years or so, I had little, just Post-it notes, and all I did was just leave a little message, and I would stick it on her mirror every morning before she went to school. And it wasn't like a 7-day-a-week thing, but like at least 2, 3, 4 times a week, I would just write a message. And if it was simple, it could be you're beautiful or you worked really hard, you deserve this. Just little bitty things. And it was funny about a year ago because I had stopped.
She asked you about it?
No, she brought it up. She said, Dad, I loved getting those little messages. And it just kind of like tugged at my heart like I was doing something right because she remembers it distinctly.
You think that was her way of saying, will you do it again?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And I started again.
Yeah, I'll take you to the store and get you some stickies, bro.
I already got some.
We'll steal some from Jim.
Yeah, I actually did. She had a rough like outing and like some tests like recently. And I went in there. She made a good grade, but it wasn't like what she wanted. And I wrote on there, your hard work is enough. And I just stuck it on there. And, that was it. Katie Benton Thompson is your local trusted realtor. Born and bred in real estate as a third-generation realtor, she deals with developments from lots and to houses. Katie was raised building the parish of Livingston. Her family roots have grown this parish for the last 30 years. This environment has educated Katie in all areas of real estate. I can tell you from personal experience, Katie Benton Thompson is a hustler in every way. She is constantly digging her heels in to give her clients the best buying or selling experience she can. Give Mandy Benton Realty Group a call and ask for Katie Benton Thompson at 225-953-0677.
You know, when you're going throughout the day, you may not feel like you're in a good position where you want to go work out, you want to do the work you're supposed to do at your job or read a book. And then I try to envision if my life was on camera at that second, like if I was wanting to broadcast out to everybody, what would I want them to see? It definitely wouldn't want to be a pity party. It would want to be me being successful or doing the right thing or being present with my children, listening to my wife or whatever I should be doing. I try to picture myself in that perspective.
I like the second part of it because I think this is real applicable to me. I think it's applicable to all of us. Like, people like to talk about the things that they do well. They like to talk about their wins. But imagine if you went around and told the people that you interacted with every day the things that you're not doing.
Yeah.
Or the things that you're ashamed of. The thing maybe you've done something that you're ashamed of. Imagine having to go around and instead of telling people about your wins, go tell them about the time you lost your temper with your 2-year-old. Or go tell them about the time where your alarm clock went off and you hit snooze and didn't go to the gym. Right? And I'm learning this right now through a lot of the stuff you just talked about. Like, I'll go to the gym and take pictures of myself and send them off in the airways. Like, yeah, look at me. I went to the gym today.
You just want people to look at your abs.
They're not bad. They're not bad. But imagine this morning when my alarm went off and I did not get up and go to the gym and said, I'll go do it this afternoon, which I fully intend to do. All right, I am going to go this afternoon. But my alarm went off at 4:30 this morning. I rolled over and I shut it off. Imagine, did I make a post about that this morning?
You're weak.
Yeah, I didn't do it. Yeah. So I like the fact that you said telling someone I care about what I'm not doing.
This has brought out something something internally for me from what you just read there. So when I feel, and this is more work related, it's not, I guess it's not more life related, but that work is life too. When I'm at work and I don't feel like doing something, and it's especially like maybe some things people left that they didn't do, I think about it, I'm like, man, I really don't want to go out there and do this or that or X, Y, and Z. And I like what you said. You're like, what would people see if they were watching me on camera right now, or they'd be able to think of my thought process? Mine is kind of similar. My thought process goes, I'm going to leave this low-hanging fruit or not do it, and those people are going to think of me the same way that I think of them. And I don't want them to think when I come in and like the guy's like, hey, here's all the stuff you need to go do. And I'm like, you should have done this, and this. And I'm like, God, man, you left me a lot of low-hanging fruit that you were supposed to do, and I'm on the back end of this. But when I'm like, man, I don't want to do it, I'm like, I don't want them to think of me the same way that I thought of them, or maybe not them or someone else. Like, maybe the person who relieved me the next day is not that person, but I'm like, I don't want them to be like, man, Chase was a shitbag tonight, and he didn't do all these things. So I don't know. I think about that.
But like, even though I try to have that perspective, there's still plenty of times where I would be ashamed of what would be aired live.
Right, but if you think about those things, it's going to make you less likely, and that's why I wanted to bring it up.
And over time,
but think how many times he had that internal conversation in his head where today on Joshua Culp Live, like, people are going to see that I didn't do X, Y, and Z, and he's like, I'm going to do it. And I've had that too. Recently, this weekend, I was literally like, man, I do not want to go out there at 4 a.m. and go do this, but I'm like, I'm not screwing my relief to make him go do this. I'm going to do it. And I had that exact. So I went and did it because I thought like that. Yeah. And he's done that as well.
I just like to highlight. I like to highlight because of like what I'm trying to do now with like being more active on social media and building a personal brand and all that stuff. It's very easy to highlight what you're doing well. But the reason I love that so much, and that's one of the things that I'm going to apply in my own life, because I've been trying to do that from every episode. That was the whole purpose of this podcast to begin with, is for us. But I'm going to take that, and next time it's time to hit the snooze button, I'm going to think, like, am I going to make a post about hitting the snooze button this morning? If I am I going to be honest about it? You know what I mean?
I say too, and maybe it's not technically on the social media aspect, because I'm trying to get less away from that than I have been, but more of like, if you are doing some things, like I say that we had that accountability, like we're talking about holding other people accountable. We hold each other accountable. Like when we talk, tell me something that you didn't do right this week.
Yeah. Or something you failed at or wish you'd have done better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it, man. That's
a good technique.
That's why I like doing this.
Yeah.
I skipped the gym twice this week.
There you go.
Full accountability.
And
but I went last night, so.
And it's only Monday. You've skipped twice already?
Last week.
Yeah, okay.
But dang.
Yeah, no.
Yep. Man, so what else can we talk about? We asked you about some specific stuff you wanted to talk about, and this is the thing that I like that you did whenever I was serving under you overseas, was repeating key messages over and over again. Why do you think that's so important?
Well, if you're leading anything, you got to figure out what is important under your leadership style or what's important to the organization, and you have to say it over and over and over so people don't lose track of the vision of whatever. You know, a football coach or sports coach is the easiest analogy to reference. If a team, and it's always simple. It's never anything complicated or it is several sentences long. It's always just something like in sports, hey, we got to run the ball. And we need to run to win the game. We got to run the ball. Or in basketball, you may want to create turnovers. Whatever it is for that team, it's always something short and sweet, and you just have to reference that over and over and over. So on our deployment, the thing that we referenced all the time was safety. We had a very young battalion. We had people from all over the country make a part of the 527th Engineer Battalion. And the way the Sergeant Major and I wanted to reference safety was if you were trained on your job, you had the right resources, you knew where to go, you had all the resources to be successful, then you are safe. If you were missing one of those components, you weren't safe, and then you're at risk of injury, damage to equipment, your injury to your life, and so forth. And I feel we were pretty successful. And again, that puts it back on the people. I don't want to accomplish the mission. I want you to have the right resources and be safe on what you're doing, and then we will all get to go home together.
Yeah, I love it. So I didn't realize it at the time, but whenever you were just talking about it, I did that unintentionally. Like you do it intentionally. I did it in my job overseas with my shop unintentionally. And I'm going to say this, I'm probably going to sound like the biggest asshole in the world, because you're supposed to lead with your personality, right? Major Maxwell taught me that right before we leave. Mine's always like I'm going to hold you accountable, but I want to kind of be playful about it. I told my job was all about, at least whenever I got to the position over the entire battalion's construction management section, was about minimizing errors in reporting. Like that was my priority, because there were a bunch of errors. So I wanted to minimize errors and be as accurate in reporting as possible. And I wanted the information that we were presenting to Colonel Culp to be as accurate as possible. And I had a very, very young team, and they would make mistakes. And that's part of it. It's part of the growth process. They were making these mistakes, and they would come to me, and I would point out their mistakes, and they would say, "Oh, sir, I'm sorry. And I would say, "Don't be sorry, be better." I was serious. I was joking about it. Like that's the part I said was it make me sound like a jerk. But I would say, don't be sorry about it. I understand you're making mistakes. Just do it better next time. So I would say, don't be sorry, be better. Don't be sorry, be better. Don't be sorry, be better. And I said this for like every day for months at a time. And then the people that were working for me started relaying that message to other people. And I've had people tell me, some of the guys that work for me overseas, like even to this day in their civilian job, if somebody makes a mistake, they recognize that as a mistake. They want to acknowledge it as a mistake, but they're telling people, don't be sorry, be better. And it was all about just reducing errors, but me saying, don't be sorry, be better. Don't be sorry, be better, over and over and over again, made those guys pay a lot more attention to the work they were doing, I think.
It shows a different message of accountability for yourself. I mean,
Are you doing the best you can?
Right.
If the answer is yes, awesome. If it's no, let's figure it out, and let's do the best we can.
Yep. I love it, man. And the reason I like talking leadership so much is because it's so dynamic and it's so challenging, especially at macro levels like I was talking about a while ago.
I think it's so fluid too.
It is, man. It really is. But
how it pours from one glass into another in a totally different concept.
Yep. But I wanted to get Colonel Culp on here because I learned personally a lot from his leadership techniques and leadership styles, and I thought that they were very transferable from the military into like your regular everyday life. And it's a lot of the same stuff that we talk about. It's about having good conversations. It's about focusing on positive outcomes. It's about looking at the things that are important in your life and what your goals are. And it's about setting goals, and it's about holding people accountable for their goals. It's about holding yourself accountable for your goals. Like, these are the conversations, man. These are the power growth conversations that people should have.
Yep. I'm going to make a vision board.
I am too.
Same.
You doing it?
Yep.
All right. We're going to see.
Jim's got to do one too.
Jim's doing a vision board. I love it. You want to close out? You got anything?
No, man. I really appreciate you coming on, Josh. It was really, I like, you actually pulled some things out of me that I've actually never talked about on the show, about like how I think about things when I don't want to do them. It was kind of cool for you to, yours is a little different, but it pulled out how I thought about things. I like having little self-realization moments like that.
No, thanks for coming. I'm going to be applying some of those techniques to my life. I like the viewing. If people were looking at your life, would you be comfortable telling them the things you didn't do that day?
I'm kind of weird.
Really
I might be like, today on Chase Catalano Live.
Laying and telling like, my failure.
I swear I'm probably going to do that.
Yeah. And so I did steal some of that before this weekend at OCS. I asked all the candidates to bring me a picture of their why. Why are you in OCS? And I taped it on the wall around the door where they walk in and out every day. And I made it like a wind bar. So when you walk out the door, you reach up and slap the wall. It says the why wall.
So everybody can see everybody else's why?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep. Oh, that's cool. You got anything you want to close out with? Any last little tidbits or anything we didn't cover you want to make sure we hammer on?
No, I've enjoyed it. It's congrats to you guys for taking the step and doing this and bringing people together and trying to share ideas and putting yourselves out there for others.
Yeah, man, it's been a great growth moment, I think, for everybody.
Oh yeah, we're right at a year in, and I
already
can tell you, oh yeah.
Wow. Yeah, like 3 months away.
Mm-hmm. Yep, but I can't tell you what I've taken away from sitting down and talking to people like you once a week.
Well, you guys have a lot of time invested in this. You got some money invested in this. Your family's invested in it, so it's a big thing for all of you.
Absolutely.
Definitely appreciate you joining us, sir. It's always, always, always a pleasure, and I'm sure I'll see you tomorrow morning.
That's right.
All right, guys, that's it. It's another episode of Hustle Makes It Happen, the podcast. Remember, until next time, keep your head down, keep your eye on the ball. Hustle makes it happen, but most importantly, have fun. Later.